Everyone, today I'm going to give you 3 ways to mitigate drastic blood sugar spikes. So the scientific term for blood sugar is glucose. It's essentially a molecule that is within our bloodstream that fluctuates throughout the day. So essentially that energy gets put to where it's needed. So whether that be feeding the muscle or providing energy in a high demand output situation. So that's what your sugar does for you daily. When our blood sugar levels are dysregulated chronically, meaning lots of sugar within the blood, often, many times throughout the day, and for long periods of time, that's when conditions such as type 2 diabetes occur. There's also a lot of interesting research associating dementia and heart disease with chronically elevated blood glucose levels. What I want to talk about today is more the day-to-day symptoms. So, because when we hear type 2 diabetes, we're like, that's not me. I don't feel it. I'm good. But when we start thinking about things like brain fog, drastic mood fluctuations, afternoon crashes, poor sleep patterns, just being tired all the time, these are all signals that our body is sending us to let us know, hey, something's not right. And typically, it is associated with poor blood sugar regulation. Another common side effect from eating too much sugar is weight gain. So when we ingest carbohydrates, it gets broken down into simple sugars and we utilize that for energy. If we don't utilize that for energy, then it gets stored, right? So at that point, we get a huge glucose spike. Our body sends out insulin hormone to regulate. That insulin will grab it, put it either in the muscles, in the liver, and store it. But when those are full, then it gets stored in fat cells, and that's why we gain weight. Now, it's not to say that if you keep your blood sugar super low that you're not going to gain weight. That's not the point that I'm trying to make here. The point is when we drastically spike our blood sugar and pump out insulin, is in a state of grabbing and storing that sugar to regulate the blood, as opposed to being in a state of burning, like i.e. you grab sugar and work out right away, right? That's a burning state. When the insulin is there doing its thing, it's no longer in a burning state, it's in a storing state. Okay, so we've reached the point of the video where I give you the 3 tips. I know I've been talking a lot. Number 1 is to try to eat protein and fiber before you eat, say, a bowl of pasta. What happens there is essentially you are coating your stomach with some protein and some fiber before you send off a bunch of sugar in there. At that point, the rate at which the sugar enters the bloodstream will be a little bit slower as opposed to an empty stomach and smashing pasta. Number 2, and my favorite to utilize, is to eat and move, which is essentially what we're supposed to be using carbohydrates for. So if I am to eat, say, a pizza, I will go for a walk after. First of all, it helps with digestion. It makes you feel a little less full, but also allows you to utilize those carbohydrates in the moment as opposed to maybe storing them. On that note, it doesn't mean that you can eat pizza every day and go for a walk and you're good. Obviously, the amount of carbohydrates, especially refined carbohydrates that we intake, matters. Number 3, and one that we often forget, is sleep. So our blood sugar is a lot more sensitive when we are lacking sleep. So very important to prioritize sleep. Also, not sure if you have noticed before, but when we are sleep deprived, we crave more sugar. Why? Because we are in a state where we are tired. And what is the number 1 thing the brain craves when it's tired? Glucose. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. Prioritizing sleep can drastically mitigate cravings, but also allow you to better metabolize glucose. Those are kind of my top 3. Obviously, paying attention to what we eat and how much of it. We can do all the biohacking in the world, but if we're smashing pizza, bread, pasta, candy all day, doesn't matter how many walks you go on, you're gonna spike your blood sugar, right? And the last thing to pay attention to is, what is my body telling me, right? Do I have headaches? Do I have brain fog? Do I have poor sleep? Is my mood all over the place? Those are all ways that our bodies communicate with us, right? So just listen. It'll tell you, okay? So I hope this helps you all. Till next time, my friends.